Millionaire weds a fake bride to please his dying mother, but her one rule changes everything. Hello everyone. Before we begin today's story, I have a small favor to ask. Please hit subscribe and turn on the notification bell so you never miss our channel's new videos. It's quick, free, and the best way to support us in bringing you more dramatic stories. Your support means the world to us. Where are you watching from? Drop your city or country in the comments below. Thank you very much. Now, let's return to our main character. The sterile smell of antiseptic lingered in the quiet hospital room. Machines beeped steadily. Each sounded a reminder that time was running out. In the bed, a frail woman with silver hair lay propped up on pillows, her breathing shallow, but her eyes still sharp. She reached for her son's hand, her voice a whisper. "Lucas, I just want to see you married before I go." Lucas Sterling, 32, billionaire CEO of Sterling Holdings, stood stiffly by her side. His tailored suit couldn't disguise the weariness in his posture. He had built an empire, but in this room, facing his dying mother, he felt powerless. "Mom." His voice broke for the first time in years. "You don't have to worry about me." But she shook her head, insistent. "Promise me. I need to know you won't be alone." The words cut deeper than any boardroom battle ever had. Outside the window, the New York skyline glowed against the dusk, indifferent to his turmoil. He turned away, jaw clenched, because he didn't know how to tell her the truth. He had no one, no fiancé, no girlfriend, not even someone he trusted enough to bring into this room. That was when the thought struck him, reckless, absurd, but the only way to ease her final days. Hours later, rain pounded the glass of a dim cafe in Brooklyn. Inside, a young woman sat alone with a chipped mug of coffee, staring at a stack of unpaid bills in her bag. Her name was Olivia Brooks, a 24-year-old nursing student drowning under tuition debt and eviction notices. She pushed the papers aside, forcing herself to breathe. All she wanted was to finish school and provide for her younger brother. The door opened with a gust of wind, and in walked Lucas Sterling. He looked out of place, his dark suit catching the light, his presence commanding even in a humble corner cafe. Olivia glanced up, startled when he stopped in front of her table. "You don't know me," Lucas began, voice steady, but eyes heavy. "But I have a proposition, one that could change both our lives." Her brows furrowed. "Excuse me?" He sat down across from her, leaning in so no one else could hear. "I need a wife, just for a short time. My mother is dying, and her only wish is to see me married. I can't give her that truth. But I can give her an illusion." Olivia blinked, stunned. "You can't be serious." "I'll take care of everything. Your debts, your housing, your tuition. In exchange, you'll stand by my side as my bride," his voice faltered, "until she's gone." She should have laughed. Should have walked out of that cafe. But there was something in his eyes, something raw beneath the steel facade. Still, her spine straightened as she set down her mug. "If I agree," she said slowly, "I have one rule, just one. You respect me. No lies outside this deal. No, using me as a prop beyond your mother. If you break that, I walk away." For the first time that night, Lucas's lips curved into the faintest smile. He reached into his briefcase, slid a crisp document across the table, and handed her a pen. "Then let's make this official." And just like that, the contract that would shatter and remake their lives began with ink on paper. And a single rule Olivia never expected would change everything. Rain washed the New York sidewalks clean. But inside Olivia's chest, everything felt tangled and heavy. She stared at the freshly signed contract in her bag as she hurried through the damp streets toward her tiny apartment in Queens. Her shoes were soaked, her rent overdue, her younger brother texting again about overdue school fees. She pushed open the creaking door of her walk-up, where peeling paint and a leaky faucet reminded her that life had never been kind. Her roommate glanced up from the couch. "You look like you've seen a ghost." Olivia hesitated. What could she say? That a stranger in a $1,000 suit had walked into a Brooklyn cafe and offered her marriage? That she had said yes? Instead, she forced a shaky smile. Just a long day. She slipped into her room, shut the door, and leaned against it. From her bag, she pulled out the contract again. Black ink on white paper. Simple lines that now bound her future. Her eyes stopped at the clause she had insisted on, respect me. One rule. That was the only shield she had. She touched the page as if it might burn her, then tucked it under her pillow. Across the city, Lucas Sterling stood before the massive windows of his penthouse, the skyline glittering like a field of diamonds. Normally, the view calmed him. Tonight, it pressed down like a weight. He had just tethered himself to a stranger, a waitress, a student, a girl with eyes too honest for her own good. His reflection in the glass looked every bit the ruthless so, but for the first time in years, he felt uncertain. He poured a glass of scotch, but it did nothing to quiet the image of Olivia in that cafe, wet hair, steady voice, that one condition she had delivered without flinching. If you break that, I walk away. Her strength unsettled him. He was used to negotiations ending with his word. She had dared to draw a line. The following morning, Olivia hurried from her apartment, clutching her worn backpack. She stopped at the corner store to grab a discounted bagel for breakfast, counting coins in her palm. Behind her, a sleek black car pulled up, drawing stares from the neighbors. The driver stepped out and opened the back door. Lucas sat inside, expression unreadable. "Get in," he said simply. Her heart thudded. She slid into the leather seat, feeling wildly out of place. "We need to make this believable," Lucas said, handing her a folder. Inside were photographs, a timeline, details about how they met, favorite colors, and vacations they'd supposedly taken. "You're kidding," Olivia muttered, flipping through the fabricated scrapbook. "This is insane." "It's necessary. My mother will ask questions. The press will ask more," he swallowed, staring at a photo of them digitally edited together in Paris. It felt surreal, like she'd been inserted into someone else's life. The car slowed in front of a boutique hotel. Sophie blinked. "What are we doing here?" "Transformation," Lucas replied. Inside, a stylist and a team of assistants were waiting. Dresses shimmered on racks. Shoes gleamed under bright lights. Olivia's hands shook as they fitted her in a gown she would never be able to afford. Heels that made her stand taller than she felt. When she stepped in front of the mirror, she barely recognized herself. Lucas entered, his gaze sweeping over her. For a moment, the mask of the CEO slipped. "You'll do," he said, voice softer than he intended. Olivia crossed her arms, grounding herself. "Remember the rule," she warned. He met her eyes, something unreadable flickering there. "I don't forget deals." While across town, Lucas whispered to the night air, "Don't forget the rule, Olivia, because I don't know what happens if I do." The hospital smelled of antiseptic and faint roses. Eleanor Sterling sat propped up in her bed, her frail hands wrapped around Olivia's. The older woman's eyes, though dimmed by illness, shone with warmth as she studied the girl beside her son. "You're even lovelier in person," she whispered. "Lucas, you've chosen well." Olivia's throat tightened. She wanted to correct the lie, confess that none of this was real, but then she saw the peace in the woman's face, the relief softening the lines of pain, and she couldn't bring herself to destroy it. Instead, she squeezed her hand gently and smiled. Lucas stood silently at the foot of the bed, watching. For a man who conquered boardrooms, he looked utterly powerless here. When his mother drifted into sleep, he pulled Olivia into the hallway. "You handled that better than I could have," he admitted, his voice rough. Olivia searched his face. "She loves you, Lucas. That's all she wants to know. You won't be alone." His jaw worked as though he wanted to argue, but instead he looked away. The following evening, another test came. The Sterlings were expected at a high-profile charity dinner downtown, a gathering of shareholders and socialites. Olivia braced herself as they entered the glittering ballroom. Chandeliers spilt light over polished marble, and the scent of expensive perfume hung in the air. Halfway through the evening, a minor crisis struck. A powerful investor's wife tripped near the stage, her glass shattering across the floor. Gasps swept the room. For a moment, no one moved. Then Olivia was there, kneeling quickly, helping the woman to her feet, brushing glass aside with her bare hands before the staff rushed over. "It's all right," Olivia murmured to the woman, her touch steady, her smile calming. The crowd watched, whispers shifted. By the time Olivia returned to Lucas's side, eyes were following her with something new, respect. Lucas leaned closer, his voice low. You realize you just won over half this room? Olivia smirked faintly. Guess I didn't need your script after all. For once, he didn't try to control the moment. Instead, he studied her as though seeing her differently for the first time. Later that night, when the chauffeured car pulled away from the hotel, Olivia leaned against the window, exhaustion catching up with her. The city blurred past in streaks of light. Lucas's gaze lingered on her reflection in the glass, her hair loose from its pins, her lips parted in a tired sigh. Back at the penthouse, she slipped out to the balcony again, heels dangling from her fingers. Lucas followed, the night breeze tugging at his undone tie. Why are you really doing this? He asked, voice quieter than usual. Olivia turned startled. You know why? For my brother. For the dead. For... She hesitated, then shrugged. Because your mother deserves peace. Lucas studied her, then nodded slowly. Maybe you're stronger than I thought. Olivia tilted her head. And maybe you're not as untouchable as you pretend. The words hung between them, sharp and honest. For the first time, Lucas didn't look away. And for the first time, Olivia wondered if this contract had already crossed into something no clause could contain. The city had quieted into the low hum of midnight when Olivia slipped into the guest room of the penthouse. She set her heels by the door, her bare feet grateful for the cool hardwood floor. Yet her thoughts refused to rest. The image of Lucas at the hospital earlier, the way his voice had cracked when he spoke to his mother, replayed again and again. He wasn't just a CEO with sharp edges. He was a son afraid of loss. Across the hall, Lucas stood by his window, staring at the skyline. Deals and deadlines usually filled his mind at this hour. But tonight, all he could see was Olivia kneeling on marble, helping that investor's wife without hesitation. He poured a glass of water. The scotch bottle was untouched. For the first time in years, alcohol felt like an escape he didn't want. The next morning, Olivia found him in the kitchen, sleeves rolled up, making coffee. It was such a startlingly normal image that she froze. You drink this? She asked, half teasing. He looked up, one brow raised. I am human, you know. She smiled despite herself, pouring her own cup. For a brief moment, the penthouse felt less like a stage and more like a home. The days that followed blurred into a whirlwind of rehearsed smiles, staged photographs, and whispered instructions. Olivia's life was now split between two worlds, the cramped apartment she returned to each night and the gleaming halls of Lucas's penthouse. Every morning, she would wake to a meticulously planned schedule that dictated her role as Lucas's fiancée, while every evening she would return to the quiet of her own reality, the contract still safely tucked in her bag. It was during one of these evenings that Lucas surprised her. He found her on the balcony, staring at the river that cut through the city like liquid silver. Rain had begun to fall, gentle at first, then steady. She hadn't noticed him approach. Cold? He asked softly, his voice carrying over the wind. Olivia turned, startled. A little. She wrapped her arms around herself. Why are you here? Lucas stepped closer, just enough to share the warmth from the balcony lights. I wanted to see if you're really okay. She laughed softly, a sound barely audible over the rain. You worry too much about someone you barely know. And yet, I do, he admitted, looking down at her with an intensity that made her stomach flutter. I don't like imagining life without you around, even if it's all pretend. Pretend. The word echoed in her mind. Everything about their relationship was supposed to be a performance. But every stolen glance, every fleeting touch, every shared laugh in quiet corners of the penthouse felt real. More real than anything she had known in years. The charity gala arrived, and with it, a new level of scrutiny. Photographers' flashes lit the room like lightning storms as Olivia walked beside Lucas, their hands brushing occasionally, intentionally or not. Every whisper, every glance was magnified, and yet, Olivia held her ground, her posture impeccable, her smile steady. Later, in the quiet of the limousine on the way home, Lucas spoke in a tone she had never heard before, soft, reflective, almost vulnerable. You've changed everything, Olivia. Not just for my mother, but for me. Olivia's heart skipped. She stared out at the city lights, trying to keep her emotions in check. It was never supposed to be like this, she whispered. Neither was I, he replied, a wry smile touching his lips. But here we are. The following week, Lucas's mother's health began to decline more rapidly. Olivia spent hours at the hospital, assisting, comforting, even reading to her when words failed. In these moments, she saw the human side of Lucas, the sun beneath the sea, and she realized something that terrified and exhilarated her at the same time. She was falling for him. And Lucas? He watched her. Every small gesture, every thoughtful word, every moment she put others before herself. He found himself caught, unprepared, unarmed against the feelings he had tried to suppress. Then came the evening that changed everything. The penthouse was quiet, lights dimmed except for the city glow that poured through floor-to-ceiling windows. Olivia sat on the edge of the sofa, flipping through the scrapbook Lucas had initially prepared. "You really thought of everything," she murmured, smiling faintly. Lucas stood nearby, sipping his drink. "I had to make it believable." Olivia looked up, eyes catching his in the reflection of the glass table. "Believable for everyone but me, apparently. You forgot your own rule." His brow furrowed. "Which rule?" She closed the scrapbook and leaned back, meeting his gaze squarely. "The one about respect. You've made me feel things I never expected." Lucas took a slow step toward her. "And what is it you feel?" Her breath caught. Confused, maybe scared, and maybe, she paused, swallowing hard, maybe more than I should. He knelt beside her, placing a hand over hers. "I've broken the rule, haven't I?" "I think you have," she said softly. The next days were a delicate dance. Lucas's mother watched, smiling, sensing the bond forming between them. Olivia kept reminding herself that this was temporary, a performance, a contract. But in quiet moments, she allowed herself to imagine a life beyond the contract, a life where she and Lucas were together, not for appearances, but for real love. One evening, Lucas found her staring out the penthouse window, lost in thought. "You're thinking too much," he said gently, walking behind her. "About what?" she asked, voice barely audible. "About us," he admitted. "About what's real and what's pretend." She turned, eyes wide. "You don't know either?" "I know enough to know I don't want it to be pretend anymore," he said. His hands found hers, steady and sure. "I've tried to keep this a contract, a duty, but I can't." Olivia's heart raced, chest tightening. "Lucas." He leaned in closer, their foreheads almost touching. "No contracts. No rules. Just us." In that moment, all the careful boundaries, all the rehearsed lines, all the staged photographs faded away. For the first time, Olivia and Lucas stood together not as a fabricated couple, but as two people who had discovered an undeniable truth. Love was messy, unexpected, and sometimes inevitable. Weeks later, in the soft glow of the hospital room, Lucas's mother passed peacefully, a content smile on her face, holding Olivia's hand. She had witnessed the love that had grown between them, a love that started as a lie but blossomed into something real, enduring. Outside, the city continued to hum, indifferent and eternal. But inside, two hearts that began as strangers now beat in unison. Contracts were torn up, rules forgotten, and in the quiet aftermath of sorrow and relief, Olivia and Lucas found something neither expected, each other. As they stepped out into the morning light, hands entwined, the rain had stopped. The streets glistened, reflecting the sun. Their journey, once built on deception and desperation, had transformed into a story of love, trust, and hope. And for Olivia and Lucas, this was only the beginning.